Welcome back to Studio Chatter. Learning to keep your distance from friends and others is not easy. Let's talk about social distancing.
I already kind of touched on it. Like, I like to hug people. That's how I like say hi to people. And so that's been really tricky for me.
And
but even just
harder to film.
It feels
we need the
awkward.
wide angle all the
different.
time.
But
it's
how
definitely
important
changed
is
things.
it, I guess, Susan, like this part of it?
Well, right now it's the tool that we have to try to stop the virus from spreading as quickly so that we can have less impact on our healthcare system, right? But that's 6 feet apart. Washing our hands is also part of social distancing. If you're sick, you self-isolate. Quarantine is different than self-isolating. Quarantine is mandated, or it's put on you by another authority, by a government authority, usually by the health department or something like that. Self-isolation is a choice, and it's an ethical choice. It's something that we should do if we're feeling sick. If we come down with any symptoms, we self-isolate in our home, and we cease contact with other people. And so right now, we're actually doing good in that we can go to the store and we can do other things, but that's what's part of social distancing. Stay home when you're sick, stay 6 feet apart, wash your hands often. I'm sure I'm missing some things because I don't have the list right in front of me. What am I missing? It's just those precautions to protect yourself that you would have.
But yet, at this point in time when we're filming this, we also want to encourage our residents here in Spanish Fork to support local business.
Yeah, for sure.
Whether it's shopping at Mia's and making an appointment, having Dickerson Automotive come pick up your car, take it in to get fixed, or going and grabbing takeout.
So our businesses are working very hard.
They are.
Right? The governor sent an order to have them do as much as they could to help protect us. And something that's important to know about this virus is the core isn't very hardy. It's made out of a fat particle. That's why disinfectants really work with alcohol, is it breaks apart that core. So it's not like norovirus. Norovirus is a very hardy virus. It goes through the digestive tract, and that's one of the ways that it infects us. The same is true with hepatitis A. This is different. It's a respiratory virus. So if you consume it through your digestive tract, it's not the same as the transmission. This is a person-to-person contact. So as far as being afraid to eat takeout and drive-through and curbside, you're going to be okay. And that's the current. That's through the FDA. You can look it up. FDA COVID-19. There are guidelines and regulations on it. So don't be afraid to go and get takeout and curbside. Is what the current standards are. It has no known food transmission. It's not a foodborne illness like other illnesses
Well,
are.
I just picked up our Costa Vida salads, and I was really impressed with them. They all were wearing gloves. They were all switching out gloves with everything that they were touching. I noticed at Mia's as well that they were Cloroxing off our cards when they took our credit cards and gave them back to us.
And they're screening employees as well.
Are they?
Yeah. Can I tell you a story?
Yes.
Okay. So my roots are pretty deep, right? My grandparents and whatever go back to Spanish Fork, right? So this you're gonna wonder why I'm telling this story. Okay. But I promise you'll love it. So my grandpa, when he was dying, he had 11 children, and the harvest was up, and they didn't know what they were gonna do. And my dad described it as this, that they felt this rumble and they heard this noise outside. And they looked out the window and here came some tractors. And what had happened is the community came and they finished the harvest for him, right? Wow. And so my grandpa gathered the children around his bed and he said, "Don't you ever forget what this community just did for us." The cavalry basically came, he didn't say that, but he said, "Don't forget." And so we're in a sense in the same thing. Our small businesses are going to suffer through this. And so if you don't feel comfortable eating out at takeout, you're still afraid. I went and got Cowboy Donuts today and I just microwaved them for 30 seconds just in case, but I did it as a choice. So if you don't feel comfortable eating out, just go buy a gift card. Just go support them in some way. The food is good. It is. You can be whatever, but just the Calvary. Let's stand up as a community. Let's make that call that we're not going to let our small businesses go at this time.
And let's be honest. How many people are used to cooking 7
Yeah.
nights a week.
No, not us.
Nowadays.
We have a lot of food that we cook with, but we've been eating out.
Yeah.
And I feel super
that's
good about
going to be
it
a
right
major
now.
thing. A lot of
Right.
moms really don't have meals for 7
Oh,
nights
that
a
is
week.
fantastic.
Correct?
That's
Yep.
probably the best news I've heard in all of this because we're
support
used to
'em.
running and doing dance pickup and grabbing some takeout to take home. And I even started menu planning. I'm like, how in the world am I going to do this, or how are we going to eat this? They're going to hate this. So that's great news.
Well, and there's a Facebook page right now that the Chamber's put up
Yes.
of all the businesses, and the businesses can contribute to it about what they're doing to make those adjustments for social distancing.
And a lot of them are even delivering, so you don't even have to leave the house. They can just
drive
deliver
through
it.
and deliver,
There-
or
Yeah.
bring it curbside to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a lot of great ideas.
So social distancing is kind of a new term. It's kind of like conscious uncoupling. That was one of the first things I thought of. I'm like, really? Are we? what is this? Just when new terms come into play and they become very familiar to us. But have we ever seen something like this in our history?
During the Spanish flu pandemic, yes.
Okay.
And let's not forget measles. Measles is very contagious. Where with this COVID-19, it has an R. I can't remember the term for it, but you infect 2 people. With measles, you infect up to 18 people, and it's airborne. And so it's very, very contagious. And so we haven't seen, that type of social distancing, but there is a possibility of having something like this. This isn't our first epidemic. Epidemics are very, very common. But one good thing to focus on is what we can do. When I was on the trail, there were a lot of people out there, and there was this fear, like if I say hi to somebody, maybe they're going to talk to me.
Right.
So but let's not be afraid to greet. Let's not be afraid to go out and to still get exercise. Let's focus on the things that we can do.
And I think not to be offended. It was so funny today at the grocery store. I saw someone that I hadn't seen for a while, and I went up to hug her. I just went for the initial, and then she kind of like stepped back a little bit, and for a moment, like my heart was like, oh, and then I was like, Angie, come on, get it together. And for a moment, like I felt like I was distant from them, and so I think it's creating a new way of thinking in our minds that just because we're not close doesn't mean we're still not close together. I don't know. It really kind of.
But when it's all over, I wanted to go back.
Yeah, I do.
Because I
want to get a hug.
We'll be really huggy after. And remember, we'll all be immune in just a
there
little
you go.
while.
Right.
We really do. We
Well,
build up those immunities. And
That's why I wanted to talk about history because, now, you go into any grocery store, and this is before this even started, you have the wipe to wipe down your cart to make it
And did
nice
you ever
and clean to
really
go
do
shop.
that
No.
most of the time? No.
And how many little hand sanitizers did you take for granted until now? And now they're a precious commodity, right? So it will be very interesting
That is funny.
to
My
get to a
husband
certain
brought
point and
home
look back.
3 hand sanitizers like 2 months ago for something. And I'm like, why did you buy 3? And they're like little. I'm like, we're never going to go through that. And I'm like, thank you, honey.
Thank you.
Right.
so I'll be honest. So I had a child get really, really sick in H1N1, like really, really sick. Like we thought we were going to maybe lose him. And so since then I have been really, every flu season, I am really worried, right? And so I'm sanitizing at the gym. I sanitize, I wash my hands, and I have this really anxiousness during flu season. And at the very beginning of this, my anxiety went down a bit because everybody else was at this higher anxiety level.
Interesting.
And so, it was kind of an interesting thing. So as far as we have seen things not like this in the last few years, of course, but H1N1 was pretty serious as well.
Right.
But this is much more serious, but we have a lot more tools.
Yes.
And we have a lot more awareness as far as social media. That's been awesome for communicating. So everybody's aware of it. Everybody's a health expert now. Like, sometimes it's about the wrong ways, but
Right.
there's a lot of great tools and things, and a lot of good things that we can still do, and that we have forgot that we can do. And now we're
Right.
doing like the connecting at home. I forgot like sitting and playing board games and things like that. There really are a lot of blessings that are coming from this.
Yeah.
Well, these ladies know that was one of my goals this year. I just didn't know that I was going to be forced into it quite
Natasha
so much.
has caused us all to come about for her goal. Thanks.
Oh.
In a good way.
Right.
Yeah. Susan, you are just a wealth of information. Thank you. And I love how positive you are all about it. You have the information, but it's like, hopeful and we can get
Well, we
through
have
it.
to, like, we
and- yeah.
prepare all that we can, and then at the end of the day, we just have to go forward with
Yep.
hope, with that faith that, like,
It's all gonna be
yep,
okay.
it is.
I think information is empowering in truth with this stuff. To know what you can do to protect yourself is very helpful.
Yeah.
So,
And if you're feeling like you need mental help with all this, if you're getting into a really fearful place, like, what are some places that they could reach out to?
So the Coalition of Suicide Prevention actually posted a hotline this morning of what you can do when there was an earthquake for natural disasters. There's always the suicide hotline that you can reach out to if you are there. If not, Wasatch Mental Health is still open. There's that walk-in clinic. You can now recognize that there's certain signs that are very important. If you stop eating, if you stop sleeping, those are things that you need to take it in account. It's normal to feel a great amount of anxiety during times like this. Really talk to somebody, exercise, take your own mental breaks, and do those things that are preventative. Those routines are so important. Try to get into, if you have a mental health professional that you see. If not, then try to find somebody. And again, there are telehealth platforms for mental health professionals. A lot of people don't know that, but there are really good ones out there. So it's good to get in there. If you're in crisis, reach out to those crisis lines. Again, we have a county, not a county, but a state crisis line as well. So Safe UT, I'm not sure if it's functioning right now. I imagine that they're still functioning and that they will continue to function.
Check that.
But
I do have that downloaded.
it's been wonderful for our kids. And that's the thing is kids a lot of times won't talk to a person, and so texting has been fantastic for them.
All right. Well, thank you for being such a great resource. There's more studio chatter coming up.